Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by at power transfer.
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Roof Show with your host, Andy Neer. I am the owner of Empire Roofing Contractors, but also host of this commercial roofing contractor show where we really try to educate and equip contractors for the commercial roofing market. Today I have a special guest here, DJ Molnar out of the great state of Ohio. Welcome to the show, DJ.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
So the reason we wanted to bring DJ on is because he's an up-and-coming contractor that's been in the trades for a number of years, but has just been realizing some really cool success due to some of his own techniques that he's been implementing, and thought we'd bring him on to share what he's doing. So let me just start off and let you share who you are, where you're from, and a little bit of bio about you.
Like I said, my name's DJ Molnar. I own Eagle Commercial Roofing with my wife. Been in the construction industry for probably the last, 15, 18 years, since I was out of high school, or since I was in high school. Started off residential, mainly, and then kind of switched gears to predominantly commercial within probably the last 5 or 7 years or so. I'm from Toledo, or Oregon, which is just outside of Toledo. We've been going at it, man. It's been a crazy wild year, but surprisingly things haven't really stopped since July.
Really? That's
yeah.
Awesome. I see a lot of people complaining, negative, just down and frustrated about the 2020 year. All the memes about if 2020 was a car, if 2020 but I just put a post out today. 2020 was probably one of our best years.
It's been crazy. It's the first part of the year we really didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously we've been working with a lot of different general contractors. The one was actually out of Michigan, and they got a job that pushed back because of the virus situation. But they were working in a building down in Toledo, and so that got pushed back. But then as soon as that hit, then it was like one after another. Then we just kind of kept going. It's been nonstop. I've been working till almost 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, even right now, because obviously with the drive time coming home. But
I know we had to reschedule this time to get on here a couple times because we're both contractors. So I appreciate your time getting on here.
No problem.
So you were in residential and you transitioned into commercial. Just for our viewers listening, our listeners listening. Tell me what you like about commercial as opposed to residential. What's some pros and cons?
Some definite pros. Obviously, there's a lot more margin, obviously, in commercial. You can do pretty much one commercial job and make almost the same amount of profit margin as you would doing, let's say, 10 or 15 residential houses, depending obviously on the size. Mm-hmm. So that's one pro. The other pro is you get more of a relationship standpoint with your manufacturers. You're dealing with them a lot more, especially when it comes to warranties and stuff like that. So it's more of like a relationship type situation with the commercial end versus the residential end. A lot of times you don't get, a whole lot of residential support, from different manufacturers all the time. I mean, sometimes you do, depending on, what your company is and, how much you're doing and that kind of stuff. But I've noticed that we've gotten more support, let's say, from a manufacturer standpoint in the commercial end than we have the residential side. Mm-hmm. The downsides, the cons of it, sometimes it can take a lot longer. Obviously, you're working on a lot more, they're bigger jobs most of the time, and they do take a little bit longer, even though they're flat and they're, let's say, easier on your body and your guys' body. They do take a little bit longer, so that's another reason why I think that a lot of times the commercial roofing is so expensive. Because there's more labor involved and it takes more time to put everything down.
We want to take a quick minute to thank our sponsor, Top Roof Contractors. If you're looking for more commercial roofing projects or a network of vetted contractors to collaborate with, you need to take a closer look. Visit toproofcontractors.com to learn what it takes to join.
So, what marketing techniques have you used this year to reach your target market? You've been trying some different things to get your foot in the door?
Yeah, we just started. We just started kind of using a service that does all of our cold calling for us, and it's actually been pretty huge. We've gotten, especially for me, it's hard for me to do cold calling and be at a job site and figuring out, all that kind of stuff and making sure all that stuff's going on and trying to do cold calling at the same time. So the service has been absolutely huge for us. I mean, it is expensive, but we don't have to mess with that at all. I mean, we've been getting probably close to probably 8 to 10 new leads every month since they've been calling, and not every single one is going to turn into a brand new roof job, or some of them might be just repairs, some of them might just be people getting just wanting to know more about you as a company, and that kind of stuff. But it's been absolutely huge. Mm-hmm. I would definitely, it saves a lot of time. It is versus even having somebody in your own office making those phone calls. And, if you don't have to worry about that, you got another company that's actually, calling like they're actually in your office, for you, it's huge.
Yep.
So
when you say cold calling, you're talking via the phone, right? Some people consider cold calling as walking into the business.
Yeah. So basically the way it works is they're either sending emails to all the decision makers, or they're doing all the legwork. They're researching every single company that they're looking up, finding out who the decision maker is, or at least trying to find out who that decision maker is, whether it be a maintenance manager or an actual owner, and getting that information from them, so that way they can set up an appointment for me to go and meet them face to face and and talk to them, explain to them about our, company, what we have to offer, different, tax incentives and stuff like that we've been kind of pushing. And they send the emails too. Yep. So they'll do phone call, then they'll do a follow-up email. But yeah, it's been huge.
So you actually had a pretty big sale recently, one of your biggest in the history of your company. Can you tell me a little bit about the steps you took to secure that deal?
It's kind of crazy. So this one it's actually through an architect or a general contractor. And it's a 700 square job at a mall. And we submitted our pricing to them, and they kind of came back and were like, "Hey, you're way high on your base bid." And I was like, "Well, how is that possible? There's no way that we can be that far off of the other company that was bidding for them." But there was two sections. So you had a base bid, and then you had a a secondary bid underneath that for tearing everything off all the way down to the deck. So it's got, right now, the roof has 2 layers on it. They want to remove the top layer to put a new layer back on. But if it's saturated, they want to obviously tear all that down to the deck. So they wanted two different base bids. And so I was sitting there and I was pondering. I was like, there's no way possible that this other company can do it for this price, because they're, on a 700 square job, their only profit margin on it was like $20,000 total. And I said, there's no way possible that they can be doing it for this. And I was going back and forth with the general contractor on it, and he's like, I don't know how they're doing this, but but that's kind of where they're at. And then I was kind of looking at it, and I said, okay, what is their other base bid at? And just kind of feeling out to see if the general contractor was going to give me that kind of information. What this other company's, other section of the bid was for. And so he told me, and so then I was kind of quickly doing some math, and I said, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Because then what they did is they lowballed on their base bid, but they jacked up their second portion of the bid. So that's where they're making all their money back, is doing, the tear off all the way down to the deck. So once I added, what my original base bid was at and what my infill price was at, I was still less expensive than what the other company was in the long run. But they go by what it looks like on paper as their base bid first. That's what they look at everything on.
I lost a job like that one time, like by $3,000, because the bid was a little cheaper, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And it was like 12 months later, I realized they made all their money up by replacing tons of B deck.
Yep.
And yep. I was like, I couldn't, I didn't realize. I was new to the game. I didn't realize, they're probably charging $450, $550 a square foot, and they knew that. And the problem is, a lot of these business owners, either a single business owner, or they have a committee, or they have a couple they don't know how much it's going to cost once they get into the job. Oh, hey, it's going to be another $30,000. Well, what are you going to do? Tell them no?
Right.
You're going to pay it.
I know.
But it's too late. It's too late. So,
well, and like even so, for like even like this job that we're working on right now, I even talked to the project manager about it, and I said they've even got discrepancies on their blueprints right now, because they have a bunch of HVAC units that are coming out, but some newer ones are coming in, but not in the same spots. And according to the prints, the holes that we have to cover up, which was included in the base bid, is only like a 3 foot by 6 foot area for the hole. Well, once they remove the whole unit off, it's an 8 foot by 33 foot hole. So that takes up all the B deck that we already have out there. And I said, I'm going to have to charge you extra for all this stuff, because this is not what they had on the print. I mean, that's a lot of B decking to cover that huge entire hole, So a lot of things, especially when you're dealing with architects and GCs and stuff like that, you almost kind of have to figure that there's going to be, extra money involved, and it's not always kind of cut and dry once you submit that bid. You're always going to have extra add-ons and other stuff added on to it at the end,
That's why change orders are so important.
Yeah, they are.
So I've seen guys lose their shirt not doing change orders. I've been bad with it in the past. It's a few man hours here, a few man hours there. I'll write it up later.
Yeah.
You forget about it later, or the building owner will be like, no. Our church, actually, we did a pretty big addition, and like a month later, the electrician submitted a $25,000 change order for a big electrical column they put in. Mm-hmm. And our deacon board was like, what's this? Oh, we had to do some extra electrical. It had to be done. They're like, well, where's the change order? Well, it had to be done, and we had to continue with work, and we knew you'd understand. And they're like, the contract says we only pay with verified change. We sign change orders.
Yeah.
And because it's a church, they're kind of like, well, they're good people. They're going to pay it. And
Yeah, right.
some churches will, because they're naive. But you've got to follow that change order process. So that's another thing I've noticed in commercial. It can be scary if you don't think about it. Small
Right.
guys like you and me, we could be like, a change order that can turn into thousands of dollars. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't watch it, it can eat you alive. So,
Yeah, well, I know on this specific one, just the change order alone, just for removing everything down to the deck, is probably going to be well over $100,000 worth of extra stuff because it's so big.
Mm-hmm.
And then that doesn't include any of the extra decking and that kind of stuff that we got to put down. And then you also got to figure too, if you do get like a bigger project and you've already got an area section kind of done and it's already laid out, welded, glued, or mechanically fastened, whichever, system that you're using. And they go and start putting holes in the roof, like 4 foot by 6 foot for your HVAC units, you're going to have to back charge them for stuff like that too, because that section is already done, because otherwise you're going to have to go back, especially like on something like this. If they're putting a new unit in, they've got to put that curb all the way down to the deck.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just put it, between two other existing layers. They're going to have to tear all that out again and put it down to the deck, and then you got tapered ISO that you're putting in and that kind of stuff. So it kind of changes the whole thing. If they don't, if they want you to start in a certain section, but they haven't gotten that far yet, you've also got to take into consideration the change orders are huge for all of this stuff. I mean, it's unfortunate that if they want you to start in a certain section and it's already done, and then they come back and they change, and want to put stuff in that spot, it really kind of is non-beneficial for them. But you can't just eat that cost, for them wanting you to start something in this certain area, because that's kind of where we're at right now. Is they wanted us to start first in a corner in the far section, and they weren't done tearing out their old units out, but there's new units coming in the middle of a section that we just put down today.
Yep.
So it's like, I'm going to have to charge you extra for coming back and having to do that, because now we got to not only tear everything out, but now we're going to have to go back and flash everything, versus if it was already there, then it would already be, we could already have it flashed already, even if it's just a curb already just sitting there.
But you can catch that in the sales process by having conditions or a disclaimer or something in your contract saying, unknown things or, unplanned things will cost extra. Because I know working for GCs or architects, as a roofer, they can take advantage of you and just say, oh, we've had this happen on a project. Probably was our own fault, but, we're almost done with the job. And, electrician popped up three new lines to the roof. You need to go seal them up. Oh, okay. Next day, we're off to the next project. Oh, the plumber popped up 3 new pipes to the roof. You got to go seal it. And it's like, what the heck, So,
yeah.
You planning ahead and having those conditions in there, and also communication with your architect and your GC to make sure that you have everything lined out in your sales presentation, and also in your contract you have language specifying where your responsibility starts and stops.
Right, absolutely.
Yep. So moving on to overcoming sales objections during the sale. Do you have any tips on how to personally overcome a customer's objection? Like maybe you don't want to think about it, or I'm getting some more bids.
If the way I've kind of always handled, objections is, I don't take it personal, because not everybody's going to choose your company all the time. It's just not. They're always going to find somebody or something that's cheaper, let's say. But just don't give up on it. I mean, even if they want to say, "Hey, we're getting a couple extra bids," that's fine. But make sure you follow up with them. And that is the hugest thing is follow up. Even if it's a couple of days later or a week later, make sure that you follow up with them. I would say that's probably one of the most important things is follow up. And not just letting it walk away just because somebody says, oh no, we're not interested, or no, we've got a couple of bids that are coming out. Just don't take it personal. Just stay at it, keep at it. And that's not the only one that's going to come up. You just got to keep grinding, keep going after them. I mean, we didn't really get our first, real commercial job. I mean, even since we started with Choice Roof Group, we've been members for, I don't know, probably 5 years now, I think, or 4 years. I mean, it doesn't have, some of us, it doesn't happen overnight. So you just kind of stay grinding on it, but I guess that would be my advice. Just follow up is a huge thing.
I had a customer I landed this year after following up either 12 or 13 times.
Yeah.
I think it was 13 times I finally was able to get a contract. So when I was in residential, maybe I would follow up once or twice, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I was too busy writing estimates. I didn't have time to call people back. So next question. Roofing isn't always easy. Sometimes sales are even harder than the actual installation part. How do you stay motivated and keep moving forward doing sales?
That's a good question.
Because you're not like a commission salesman. Like salesmen that are on commissions, they get paid commission. They're on a tier. Sales is all they do. So it's a different kind of motivation. But when
Right.
you're the, like you and me, we're the owner and the salesman and the project man. I mean, we wear several hats. Sometimes
Right.
you got to be motivated to go out and to put all our effort into that sale.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's always just being positive. Like I said, it kind of going back on our last thing. Just don't be negative. Always be positive. And always try to work through it. You're gonna come across people that maybe don't understand some things. But just always stay positive. And I would say, I mean, if you've got, I guess my other biggest motivation thing is also my family. Because obviously if I'm not staying motivated, then obviously we're not going to be able to, function. I mean, obviously this is our livelihood. This is kind of what we do, so, so I guess my family is another big motivation thing for me to, just keep selling, or at least keep trying to sell, so.
So on the heels of your first one, you said, stay positive and enthusiastic. One book that I read several years ago, and I try to read it once a year, is called How I Went from Failure to Success in Sales by Frank Betker. And pretty much the underlying message in that whole book is enthusiasm. Like when he was not enthusiastic, he tracked his sales like crazy, like his numbers, how many phone calls he made, how many leads he had, all these statistics. And he could definitely see a huge contrast between when he was a positive, enthusiastic person, even the tonality in his voice,
right,
to better sales. And so yeah, that's a great book. I try to read it, and
I've actually never read that.
It's a good book. Check it out.
I'll have to look into that. That'd be a nice read.
So now that we're coming into winter, you're in Ohio, I'm in Michigan. It's not like Florida and Texas where we get 12 months of
good weather all year round. Yeah.
So are there any steps you're taking to get prepared for next spring?
Quite honestly, we're not really right now, because with these two bigger jobs, the one that we've got going on in Detroit, and then obviously the one that's for the mall job, that's going to last. That's probably going to take us all the way up until probably the end of January at least. And then we've got another couple other things that are still kind of up in lingo right now because of the the virus situation that we were supposed to actually start this year, but that got pushed back. So I think March or April, because they still have to build a building, and it's a five-story building, so it's going to take them at least 3-6 months just to even get it before they're even ready for us.
Yep.
So, but yeah, quite honestly, I mean, for us per se, we haven't really had any plans really for the winter yet because we've been busy as crazy, but yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, unfortunately I wish I had some some better better advice right now, especially with coming into winter, but right now because of the stuff we got going on,
this year is you can make all the plans you wanted and they get changed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you're part of a contractor network, a large group of contractors that kind of work and help each other out. How has being part of a network benefited you?
I would probably I'm kind of going to piggyback on this, but it's probably like training. Especially for like your guys, make sure that they're trained. You're not going to always be there to always kind of hold their hand and, let them, say, hey, this is how you got to do this, or this is how you got to do that. You're going to have to let them kind of go, but they also have to be trained to know what they're doing, in order for you to succeed, because you're not going to be able to be there all the time. So I guess with training aspect of it, that has really kind of helped us with the whole group scenario. Not just with the Toy Roof Group, just with even with just manufacturers and stuff like that. That training is just so important for the success for you and for your guys as a company. Because if they keep messing stuff up, you're going to have constant callbacks all the time. And then that goes kind of your reputation.
Yep.
So, I mean, we kind of had a small little hiccup back in the summer. But obviously we kind of got that kind of somewhat straightened out. But training is probably one of the most important things that you could probably do is make sure your guys are trained,
One tip that I could probably share with people that I learned just a few years ago was, I was like many contractors. We'll do a training in the shop, on a crappy day or a slow day, or when we get time.
Yeah.
Well, that never happens. And then when you do have a rainy day, oh shoot, I didn't have the demo boards ready and the tools are at the job and it never works out. So I learned a few years ago, you have to put it on a calendar. You have to put a date down, just like it's a job. Okay, December 4th, in the shop, we're having training all day. But I wouldn't tell the guys because, then they might not show up. It's training, it's not that exciting. And, and so they would just show up and, hey, today we're in the shop training for 6 hours. And whether it was welders or torches or whatever it was, we did standing seam, we did TPO, we would, the point is that they had time with the tools in their hand without practicing on a customer's roof. And we'd be like, I remember one time we had a TPO, we had a T-patch contest. So like, hey, we're gonna let all you guys weld and initial your T-patches, and then we'll have this other guy who's the inspector, who's the senior guy, who's the inspector. He's gonna tear your patches apart, and he's gonna grade them and see who wins, and just kind of making it a fun competition. And making it a fun day for the guys. Get some pizza, get some things, but the point is that if you're gonna take it seriously and train your guys, you're gonna put it on the calendar just like it's a job.
Yeah.
It's this day, and we're gonna have training, and take it like you said, take it seriously.
Yeah, right. Well, and like I said, I know that sometimes you don't necessarily want to do it obviously on a customer's job, but I have actually trained some guys on customer jobs, but off to the side, like on a piece of scrap.
Oh, many times you have to. Yeah.
You know, just to kind of, if you see one of your guys just kind of standing around, kind of waiting for, the next thing to do, or, your supervisor to, let them know, hey, this is what you got to do next or whatever. Have them grab a welder and start messing around with, a couple T patches or whatever off to the side, and just kind of, let them go, because once they get familiar with that kind of stuff, then that's another person that you can trust to make sure that, one, that everything's kind of getting done in the correct way. But then also, if you don't have somebody else there, at least you can rely on another person to kind of step up, and at least they know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Yep. You got to have guys cross-trained. Yep.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you can't just have just one, one guy that basically kind of runs everything and knows kind of what they're doing. You're going to succeed if everybody knows, what's going on. Whether if you pay your guys by the hour, or if you, 1099 your guys or whatever, however, anybody does it, even if you pay your guys more for, your foreman, let's say, wage, I have no problem paying, all my guys foreman wage if they can all do the work, but I would also expect them to, be more efficient though as well if they are getting that foreman wage. You know what I mean?
Solving their own problems.
Yes, right. So
one of the last questions is, well, I know you talked about a couple of big projects, but for some guys coming out of residential, maybe, they're intimidated by commercial. I mean, you said 700 square. To some guys, that might be like, whoa, that's way out of my league. But there's plenty of 60, 100, 130 square jobs out there that they can make good money on that are less headache than doing a residential house. Am I right?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can do a, let's say a 60 square job that's relatively small when it's getting compared to a commercial building. And be pretty decent done in a couple days, depending on what you have to do and what it entails. So don't ever turn down, or, go after the small ones. If you want to go after the small ones first, go for it. I mean, the small ones are just as important as the big ones. And a lot of times, sometimes I would almost rather take, 10, 12 little 60 square jobs versus taking on one huge 700 square job.
Yep.
Because not only are you're eating up a bunch of time at the bigger job, but more than likely you had some stipulation in the larger job that obviously you probably wouldn't want to make as much profit on it as you would like, because it's so big and because you're doing it with an architect or GC or whatnot. If you go after them smaller ones, sometimes you can make better margin on those smaller ones than you can on the bigger ones.
For us, it's like the sweet spot is between about 80 square and 200 square.
Yeah.
Where they're too big for a residential guy to be interested in them, and they're too small for the big 40-man crews. They don't want them. They want the big 400, 500 square production jobs. And so I found there's less competition in that little window of 100 to 200 square.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we'll take those smaller ones all day long. I mean, sometimes I'd rather, even, like I said, I'd prefer a bunch of smaller ones versus, one or two big ones per year. You know what I mean?
So in closing, give me maybe one or two practical tips that a guy that's just starting in commercial, or maybe he hasn't done a commercial job yet, but he wants to break into the market. What's a good practical tip that you would give them that could implement tomorrow?
Like I said, don't ever give up. A lot of times it is very discouraging, if when you're just starting out and you get this phone call or you get this email saying, hey, can you give me, what it would cost to do this roof? And it's like, oh yes, it's my first, 50, 60 square job or whatnot. But you get there and you start giving him all the information and you give him a price on it and everything. And, he's like, oh, that's way too expensive, for me to spend right now. Well, like I said, don't take it personal, but stay at it. Maybe that's just not that right candidate. Sometimes building owners are like that. Sometimes they would rather sacrifice quality for the quantity. If I'm saying that correctly.
Well, a number of years ago, there was one particular job that totally switched my mindset to commercial thinking. It was a 380 square job. It was a metal roof coating job. And, one of my coaches was teaching me how to bid higher, bid where you need to be. And after I submitted the estimate to the building owner, he told me, A, you're $10,000 higher than the other guy. And B, I like the other guy's product better. They have ceramic granules in their coating. And I'm like, well, how do I compete against that? He likes the other guy's product better and I'm more expensive. But like you said, I followed up. Every week I followed up. Every week I followed up. And then make a long story short, we found out that he went to college. He was an older guy, but he went to college with a guy that I knew. So there was a connection there. And then found out there was another guy that we both knew. And after about 5 or 6 phone calls over 5 or 6 weeks, he says, if we were to do this, how soon could you start? I said, we're about 3 to 4 weeks out right now. He says, well, we know enough of the same people that I can trust you to do this job. Let's get started. So it had nothing to do with the price. It had nothing to do with the product. It had to do It had to do with establishing trust. And sometimes you think it's about price or you think it's about the product, but it's not.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's why I said, just don't give up on it. Just because somebody says no right away, it's almost kind of like those, objectives that they like to throw out.
Yep.
That's sometimes that's their way of trying to feel you out and, trying to see if, what you're kind of all about, and then it goes back to kind of relationships. So that's kind of what they're trying to figure out, when they're kind of doing that stuff. So don't ever give up on it. You got to stay at it, keep grinding at it, and don't stop. That's what we did. And it's worked out pretty great for us.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketroofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.